We live in a world where different screens are telling us what to be and what to do, more so than ever. And finding your individuality and who you are as a person is, in my opinion, probably the most difficult thing that you can do in this modern age. And what Empyre strives to get across is that if we leave our hearts and minds to the world, we will inevitably be destroyed by other people's opinions, other people's and corporations' preconceived notions of who we should be as human beings.
Empyre really dives into the idea that nowadays with social media and with a lot more visibility into what's going on with the world and what's going on with each other, there's a pressure, in a sense, from the world or society for us to be a certain way. And Empyre really explores the idea of rebelling against that. Kind of exploring the idea of you give yourself to the world, and sometimes it can kind of just drain you completely of sometimes it feels like who you are. And that's kind of where both of these songs tie in. They're both about rebellion.
With Empyre being about all the different sources and things that are happening outside of ourselves, The Willing Martyr is an internal examination. It's an examination of trying to find a way to break the cycle of the things that you've been taught that are unhealthy for yourself and for others around you. Also, an examination of how to find a way out of these situations that you may have been put in, especially growing up, that you had no control over. You had no idea that this may be affecting who you are as a person and the decisions you would make. And once you become aware of that, how to break out of that cage and those shackles. And it's an angry song, but it's also a song that should serve as motivation to be a better person, to look at your anger or anything that you've been through as motivation, as fuel to overcome and reach that next level of the person that you should be.
So when you look at the icons for the songs, in all of these, Ryan Clark, who did the artwork, did an amazing job. We basically told him the concept of, this is what the songs are about. These are the pairings. These are why they're put together. And he, took that and ran with it. And for Empyre, for example, you take the classic, what's called the 8-sided chaos icon, and essentially it's made up of arrows that are pointing outwards. But all the arrows are connected in the middle, which kind of represents a unified front, and you're kind of rebelling outward, right? Which is what the song really kind of touches on. Then you take the Willing Martyr, and even though it's also about rebellion, you take that same icon, you invert the arrows pointing in, which represents kind of just the more internal aspect of that song and where the rebellion's focus. It's not as much external, but it's really more internal.
With all that being said, I think Empyre and The Willing Martyr totally makes sense to open up the record, because it's showing you that it's going to be an examination of self through the eyes of the external and also the internal. Throughout the rest of the record, you can definitely see how those different landscapes are explored.